Amid the rushing crowd, what exhausts a person most is not the fierce wind of life, but a heart that isn't steady enough to stand. There are days when you can't even explain why, yet a small sentence is enough to stir you. Something that hasn't happened can steal your sleep. A shapeless fear can make you run from yourself. And then you ask, why am I so fragile? Why can even the lightest breeze make my heart ripple like a lake already full of waves? Bodhidharma once taught that it is not the outer world that makes you suffer. What unsettles you is a mind led by delusion, by restless, fabricated thoughts. All our lives we assume the enemy is outside. Criticism and praise, pressure and upheaval, loss and fear. Yet the one who hurts us most often lives right inside the mind, the one that spins stories. Thoughts that are not real come and go like clouds, yet they can hurt as if they were solid truth. Many people only understand this halfway through life. If you want the world not to infect you, the mind must stand firm. And if you want the mind to stand firm, you must learn to recognize delusion and walk through it. So in this reflection, we follow the path Bodhidharma pointed toward: how to stay upright amid mental turbulence, how to keep the heart from being shaken, how to live in a world that changes without being swept away by it. Not to escape life, not to suppress anything, but to understand, to see clearly, and to return to yourself. Because when the mind is truly steady, the wind will still blow and life will still shift. But you will no longer be carried away. We live among endless images, sounds, stories, and information. Yet what shakes the mind most is rarely what the eyes see or the ears hear. It is the interpretation inside the head. A single message left on seen, a colleague's tone that seems slightly colder than yesterday, a quiet pause from someone you love. These become raw material for the mind to sculpt into meaning. The event is small, but the story can be vast. The mind does not merely receive life, it edits it, colors it, and sometimes turns it into a threat. Bodhidharma called this delusive thought. It has no shape, no form, yet it can rule us with astonishing force. It arrives like an uninvited guest and speaks with the confidence of certainty. It tells you, this is real. This is who you are. This is what they meant. This is what will happen next. And before you know it, you are no longer standing in the present. You are standing inside an imagined future, or wandering in a rewritten past. Delusion arrives quickly. Someone glances at you, and the mind instantly begins. Are they thinking badly of me? A small change at work, and the mind leaps ahead. I'm about to lose my place. Something is going wrong. A loved one sighs, and the mind rushes to conclude, they're upset with me. Did I do something wrong? None of it has happened. Yet the mind runs ahead, inventing a private world of unease. That is the pain of it. Delusion is invisible and seems harmless, but its consequences are real enough to drain your peace completely. It can make your shoulders tighten, your breath shorten, your stomach clench. It can turn a quiet evening into a courtroom where you put yourself on trial. It can make you rehearse arguments, imagine rejection, measure your worth by shadows. And because the mind prefers familiarity over truth, it often returns to the same themes. Not enough, not safe, not loved, not certain. Delusion is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is simply repetitive. Like a small leak in a boat, it does not sink you at once. It wears you down over time. Why is delusion so powerful? Because the mind is rarely still. It is like the surface of a lake. One falling leaf can send ripples across it. A person swept away by praise has no inner anchor. A person wounded by criticism has not yet grown roots. A person anxious about the future or trapped in the past is always reaching outward, rarely returning home to themselves. Bodhidharma taught that the mind becomes chaotic because it clings, it fears, and it craves. Clinging to what we like, fearing what we don't want, craving what we do not have. These three weave together into an invisible whirlpool. When we cling, we fear losing. When we fear, we dread facing. When we crave, we worry we won't attain. From this, thousands of delusions are born. And notice how subtle this is. The mind says it wants peace, yet it keeps feeding the very patterns that undo peace. It clings to what is temporary as if it must last. It fears change as if change were unnatural. It craves certainty in a world built on movement. Then it wonders why it feels tired. People often think the mind is unsettled because life is full of upheaval. Yet even in a silent room, a person can feel as anxious as if standing in a crowded market. The noise of the world can be shut out by a door. The noise of the mind can only be quieted from within. The ancients said, "When a single thought arises, 10,000 things are stirred. One doubt, one fear, one imagined scenario, one judgment. Enough to toss the inner world like a small boat in rough water." The most dangerous part is that delusion wears the mask of truth. It makes you believe what you invented. It makes you react to what never happened. It makes you tired from situations that exist only in the mind. From there come tension, irritability, insomnia, anxiety, sometimes even the feeling of being unable to breathe. Not because life itself is crushing you, but because you are being led by a mind that doesn't realize it is dreaming. Bodhidharma looked directly at this and said, "In essence, the outer scene is not what moves, only the mind moves. Life outside does not deliberately exhaust you. The mind writes a script, projects a shadow, and then suffers inside its own theater. This is not meant as blame. It is meant as liberation. Because if the source of disturbance is inside, the doorway to peace is also inside. You do not have to wait for life to become gentle. You can become steady even while life remains wild. So what is the root of inner chaos? A lack of awareness. You do not notice when the mind is being carried away. You do not notice when thought is racing. You do not notice when emotion is pushing you toward darkness. The mind is like a child. If it is not gently guided, it runs in every direction. And wherever it runs, it hurts itself. And here is the subtle truth. You cannot become steady by trying to stop thinking. The harder you force the mind to be silent, the louder it becomes. The way through delusion is not war, it is seeing. Look directly at the thought. Recognize it. Then let it pass like a cloud crossing the sky. Do not cling. Do not chase. Do not hate. Do not feed it. Simply know it has come and it will go. Like rain that falls and ends, like wind that rises and fades, nothing stays forever. When you understand this, the heart becomes lighter for one simple reason. You see clearly. So I am not suffering because of life itself. I am suffering because of the story I am telling in my mind. The moment you recognize delusion, it loses half its power. When you do not run after it, it cannot shake you as it once did. This is the foundation of the path Bodhidharma offered. A heart unmoved, a life that cannot infect you. People are rarely broken by what happens outside. We are broken when the mind has nowhere to rest. A young bamboo shoot bends at the slightest breeze. A great tree can face storms without falling. The difference is roots. Bodhidharma pointed to 3 roots of instability: ignorance, attachment to self, and craving. Ignorance is not a lack of education. It is not seeing the nature of things, that everything is impermanent, always changing, that life does not obey your plans, that joy and sorrow are passing states. When someone expects the world to unfold exactly as they wish, even a grain of sand out of place becomes disappointment, irritation, fear. Ignorance makes people believe they can fully control life. But life has its own rhythm. Rain falls when its time comes. Wind blows when conditions gather. A leaf turns yellow without asking permission. When you don't understand this, the mind is easily shaken. The second root is attachment to self, clinging to me, mine, my feelings, my opinions, as if they are absolute. This is why we feel targeted. They're disrespecting me. They're looking down on me. When you hold the ego too tightly, any touch hurts. Like gripping an object in your palm, hold it gently and you're fine. Squeeze too hard, and even small pressure becomes pain. When the self becomes the center of the universe, anything that doesn't match your desire becomes suffering. The third root is craving, not only for money, status, or praise, but for life to go your way. Wanting everything to be smooth, wanting to never be hurt, wanting people to treat you exactly as you treat them, wanting the world to remove all hardship from your path. But life was never designed to satisfy every demand. Where craving is strong, disappointment follows. Where expectation is heavy, unease grows. And so a minor change becomes a crisis. A turned shoulder becomes collapse. Not because the event is enormous, but because the mind is holding too tightly. Bodhidharma's quiet message is simple. Loosen your grip and the mind will finally have somewhere solid to stand. Without letting go, you stand on sand. With letting go, you stand on earth. And then comes a practice that sounds small but changes everything. Do not rush to react. Do not rush to believe what you think. Do not rush to follow the first emotion that appears. Because in the instant you react, you are no longer yourself. You become a servant of impulse. When a strong emotion rises, anger, fear, sadness, shame, do not answer it immediately. Pause for 3 slow breaths. Inhale and know, anger is here. Exhale and soften. Inhale and recognize. Exhale and release. 3 breaths can change the entire direction of a moment. A mind that reacts instantly is not a strong mind. It is a vulnerable one. True strength is the ability to slow down. Like a master martial artist, a beginner throws punches constantly, thinking that speed is power. A true master moves less, watches more, waits for clarity. The power is not in how fast you strike, but in how steady you remain under pressure. Bodhidharma compared the mind to a mirror. It reflects clearly only when it is still. When it shakes, everything is distorted. Emotion colors reality. Fear exaggerates danger. Delusion makes shadows look like monsters. But when you pause, the mirror steadies. And then you can see what is actually happening, not what your mind is projecting. This is why so many people act on emotion for a few seconds and regret it for years. A single harsh sentence can ruin a relationship. A decision made in panic can destroy an opportunity. The root is almost always the same. No pause. No space between stimulus and response. So the art is not suppression. It is returning. Returning to the breath, to the body, to the present, where delusion has less room to build its kingdoms. And if there is one phrase that gathers the whole teaching into a simple compass, it is this: do not cling, do not fear, do not crave. The mind moves when it clings to what it loves, fears what it hates, and craves what it lacks. These 3 are like invisible ropes. Clinging makes the heart heavy. Fear makes it tremble. Craving makes it restless. When the heart is heavy, trembling and restless, it cannot stand steady before anything. Not clinging does not mean abandoning life or love. It means appreciating without gripping, caring without depending, holding gently rather than desperately, like holding sand in your hand. Hold it softly and it stays. Squeeze and it slips away. Not fearing is not denying reality. It is seeing that most fear is imagination, suffering in advance. When you bring light, understanding and awareness, fear shrinks like darkness under a lamp. You do not defeat fear by wrestling it to the ground. You soften it by meeting it with clarity. Is this truly happening now, or is my mind traveling? Not craving does not mean giving up effort. It means doing your part with sincerity, without chaining your peace to outcomes. Life unfolds through causes and conditions. You can plant and nurture, but you cannot command the season. When craving loosens, the heart becomes spacious, and in that space, peace can enter. To live like this is to learn a new kind of dignity, the dignity of not begging life to be different in order for you to be okay. It is to stop placing your inner weather in the hands of outer events. It is to become the kind of person who can stand in changing conditions without turning change into a personal threat. When the mind is light, steady, and clear, the wind may still blow and waves may still rise, but you become like a mountain that does not chase the wind, like a lake that reflects the moon without being torn apart by ripples. This is not magic. It is training, breath by breath, moment by moment. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, noticing one thought instead of obeying it, taking one breath instead of reacting, letting one urge pass instead of feeding it. But over time, these small moments gather into an inner strength that no noise can easily break. Life will not promise you calm seas. The world will continue to praise and blame, to offer and withdraw, to shift without consulting your preferences. Wind will still come, seasons will still turn, people will still change. Plans will still break and rebuild, but Bodhidharma's teaching offers a different kind of hope, one that does not depend on life being gentle. It depends on you becoming steady. You may not be able to control what arrives at your door, but you can learn to control what you invite into the center of your mind. You may not be able to stop thoughts from appearing, but you can stop treating every thought as a command. You may not be able to prevent fear from rising, but you can meet it with breath, with awareness, with the quiet question, is this real right now? And gradually, something changes. The world does not become quieter. You become clearer. The wind does not stop. You stop being carried. So when the heart trembles, return to the breath. When the mind invents stories, return to what is true. When delusion pulls you away, return to the one place it cannot rule, the present moment. In the end, peace is not something someone gives you. It is not something you chase and finally find. Peace is something you build daily by understanding the mind, guarding the mind, and learning to stand within yourself. And when the mind is steady, you will see the wind still blows, life still changes, but you are no longer carried away.